Let us pray. Father, as we come to listen to your word, may the words that I speak become your living words in our hearts. May we hear them. May we apply them to our lives. And may we know in the depths of our being what you are saying to us this day. We ask this in the name of Christ. Amen. When someone tells you they've got your back, that they're behind you every step of the way, that they will support you in some new venture that you want to try, what does that feel like? Think perhaps of a loving and supportive parent, or of a boss who perhaps really wanted to see you succeed. Or maybe of a Christian friend who encouraged you to take a step of faith. Someone you knew would be behind you, would encourage you, guide you, maybe help you pick up the pieces if whatever you tried didn't work out. Someone who would stand up for you when others sought to criticize. It feels great when you know someone's got your back like that, and you know they won't give up on you no matter what. I believe it can also be hugely empowering because you know you're not on your own. You know you've got someone to turn to. And perhaps you're therefore more likely to try the new thing, to take the risk, to try and to fail, and then to try again. And what do we call someone who has your back like this? An advocate. Someone who supports you. Someone who champions you. Someone who backs you. Someone who perhaps commends your ideas to others. The wonderful good news from the scriptures today is that Jesus says we have such an advocate. Remember, we're listening in to part of Jesus' farewell discourse in John's Gospel. Jesus is telling his disciples that he will be leaving them and going to the Father. But here is the promise, that they will not be left alone. Jesus says, I will ask the Father, and he will give you another advocate to help you and be with you forever, the Spirit of truth. And this is not just good news, it's fantastic news. Another advocate. Jesus was the first advocate. Another advocate who will be with you forever. So even though Jesus' time with them physically was coming to an end, the Spirit would be given to them and would be with them and us forever. So if we're afraid and uncertain of the future in the midst of this coronavirus pandemic, how much more do you think Jesus' disciples would have been with this news? That they who had forsaken jobs and family, who had put their hope in him, who had travelled around with him for 3 years, were now going to be left on their own. It surely had become increasingly clear to them that what Jesus had begun was massively at odds, not just with what they had expected and hoped for, but was also very much in conflict with the status quo of the Jewish religious system. And not just that, but also the Roman Empire. Their leader was going away, and now what were they going to do? Jesus told them, do not let your hearts be troubled. We read that last Sunday. Now we see and we hear the reason why. He was going to be with the Father. They wouldn't see him anymore, yet they wouldn't be on their own, because the Advocate, the Spirit, would be given to them to be with them forever. God's Spirit is the one who is called alongside them, who will take their side, who will intercede for them, who will stand up for them. When Jesus' first disciples would lose sight of him when he returned to the Father, the Spirit would remind them of Jesus' character, of his love. And also, he would remind them of who they were in God's eyes. To return to a phrase that I used some months ago in church, the Spirit would remind them not just who they were, but whose they were. That identity as beloved children of God is something that they would need to hang on to in the troubled early days of following the way of Jesus without the physical presence of Jesus. And if that was something they needed, well then surely we need, in our time of trouble, to be able to hold on to the same thing. That you and me are beloved children of God, adopted into God's family, valued by God. God's Spirit also comes alongside us in the midst of our challenges, whether those are coronavirus related or some other form of challenge. The Spirit comes alongside us and reminds us that God is with us and God is for us. In many ways, in these days, we are just hanging on. Many have said they don't even know what day it is. There is often so little structure to our days and weeks because the things that we normally do, in many cases, we cannot do right now. And we have to hang on in there. We have to survive. But in the midst of all of this, is there a possibility that we can do more than just hang on? That we can do more than just survive? But that actually we could thrive? If we hear the good news today that we are not on our own in this world, in these current troubles, that God by his Spirit is with us and is for us, if we not only hear that good news, but believe it in the depths of our hearts, then we as his beloved children can certainly do more than just scrape by. One of the things that has been amazing to see over the last couple of months is people's resourcefulness and creativity coming to the fore. People are very quickly switching to new ways of doing things, coming up with new ideas to get around the restrictions on meeting together, on movement and on gathering. And it's been a joy to see how communities are coming together to look after their more vulnerable members and also to value those in our society who perhaps have been seen traditionally as less worthy of value. With God's Spirit alongside us, reminding us not only who we are, but whose we are, we who are Christ's body here on earth can flourish. Church life is no different. We have worked out some new ways of being church together, of retaining that connectedness that we find in meeting together. And we have tried some new things ourselves, and we are learning from others, and others are learning from us. But I think there's also a huge sense of wondering. What will change about the way that we do church in the future? And that's something that our church councils are going to have to grapple with in weeks, months, years to come. Our model, of course, has traditionally been come to church. Come and take part in all the different activities that go on during the week. And maybe we don't worry so much as church leaders about about what people are really going to do with the rest of their time during the week. But now, all of the meeting together, the Sunday morning, the weekday activities, they've all stopped. We're gathering online for worship, but for the most part, the rest of our lives are spent in society, albeit in a fairly restricted way at this time. But we are God's scattered people rather than his gathered people. And maybe one of the things that needs to change is that we put less emphasis on the amount of time that we devote to activities, to meeting together over and above a Sunday, and more on the time that we spend in society, engaging with the world, engaging with those round about us, engaging with those who don't yet know Jesus. Yes, we very much long for the time when we can meet again together face to face. We gather in that way to be fed and to be encouraged. But then we are sent out into the world to make a difference. I think that's always the way it was meant to be. And maybe this is a way that we can press the reset button, if you like, and begin to do a little bit more thinking along those lines. Those are just some of the thoughts that are going through my head at the moment. I plant them as a seed for you, and in the knowledge that it'll not be down to me to help you work through that, but a seed planted, someone else will come along and water it, and hopefully you as a congregation will reap the harvest of it. No matter what our world might look like, no matter what church might look like, no matter how long those elements that we are loathing of lockdown and social distancing might last, let us remember that God is not absent. God is very much present with us by his Spirit. Let us remember that God's Spirit is our advocate. He is the one who's got our backs. He is the one who guides us. He is the one who reminds us of the promises of God, who comforts, who helps, and who encourages us. In the midst of all the bad news, that is very good news indeed.